Hey, Vsauce. Michael here. A few years
This was good times. 10 years ago. He does shorts now? Oh, of course. The classic.
ago, in Minneapolis, an angry dad stormed into the retail store Target. His daughter, a high schooler, had been receiving coupons in the mail from the store for things like cribs and diapers. Was Target encouraging his daughter, a minor, to go out and get pregnant?
Target, what the fuck?
The store apologized, but a few days later they heard back from the father. He told them, "A few things have been going on in my household I was unaware of. My daughter is due in August. I owe you an apology."
Oh!
You see, Target's internal algorithms had been tracking and processing his daughter's purchases, and recently she had started buying different items than usual. Things like
This is this is crazy because 10 years ago this was like insane and now it's like, well yeah, they just do that. Dang, but 10 years ago this was like insane news. Like the intro of a 20 million view video. But now that's just our life.
vitamin supplements and
Imagine in 10 more years. Oh god.
soaps and lotions. Behaviors the system flagged as evidence she could be pregnant. Thus, they sent her the coupons.
Dang.
And they were right. Without being told, Target knew that a girl was pregnant before her own father.
Is my mic still too
We
loud?
are tracked and
turned it down a
followed
little bit.
digitally, now more than ever before. We live in a world of 24/7 CCTV.
No, it's too quiet. But the video's still quiet? I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with it. I have it at max on my mixer.
Browser cookies, trackable debit cards and cell phones and GPS, fingerprinting and DNA analysis. But despite all
Why are
of
you
that,
yelling? Ah!
every single year in the United States alone, more than 2,000 people disappear
Whoa.
and are never found again.
I wonder what that stat
dead
is
or
now,
alive.
because it's 10 years ago.
Where do missing people go? How do they disappear? What if you disappeared? And how do you know you haven't already disappeared? In many cases, missing persons are the victims of unsolved or unknown crimes. They may have suffered accidents or taken their own lives.
Oh wait, I think I figured it out. Hold on. I think I fixed it.
And their bodies were never found. Or they may be perfectly fine and have simply escaped their old life, old friends and family, old debt and obligations, to start a new life somewhere else, possibly as
Get a new wife and new kids.
How long would it take for people to notice if you disappeared? Well, think about it. I mean, it sort of depends on who you are, how you live, and how you disappeared. In most
Well, if I
jurisdictions,
disappeared, people would be like, she just doesn't feel like streaming, it's fine. It'd be like 3 months, they'd be like, oh, she's probably just being lazy.
after about 5 to 7 years, if no one has heard anything from you at all, you can be declared dead in absentia.
Yeah,
This is
they're
what
like, she's
happened to
playing League,
French
probably.
astronomer Guillaume Le Gentil. In the 18th century, hundreds of people traveled far and wide to observe the transit of Venus from different locations on Earth. They knew that by
Wow.
comparing their measurements, they could calculate more accurately than ever before just how far away the sun was. So, Le Gentil left Paris in 1760 for Pondicherry in India. But after a storm blew him off course and the British occupied Pondicherry, he was forced to spend the day of the transit on a boat at sea, which rocked too much for accurate measurements to be taken. Now,
Uh-oh.
the next transit would happen in 8 years, but after that, the next transit wouldn't happen for another 100 years. So he stuck around. He didn't return to Paris. Instead, he built an observatory and waited. When he finally
That
returned
fucking
to
sucks.
Paris
Holy
11
shit.
years after leaving, he found that he had been declared dead. His wife had remarried, his family had plundered his belongings, and his position at the Royal Academy of Sciences had been given to someone else.
Dude, that sucks!
He never did see the transit of Venus, by the way.
He
On the
didn't
day
even
that it
see
happened,
it!
the sky above him was overcast.
Oh my fucking god, that guy's life is so fucked up. Wait, that's so depressing.
We know the human population of Earth. Kind of. Population figures and counters are
shit.
only estimations.
Wait, this is from 10 years ago. So, worldometers.info/world population. Holy fuck, I can't spell. Guys, we grew! We grew! Dang, a lot of people died today. That sucks. That's bad. Yeah, but we're on the come up. We're peaking right now. Holy shit. We're peaking.
Individuals are best accounted for by real people in their real lives. But that doesn't always happen. Earlier this year, Janet Veal passed away in her apartment in Ringwood, Hampshire. Large portions of her body were eaten by her pet cats before she was discovered weeks later.
Cheddar!
And 7 years ago, Joyce Carol Vincent was found dead on her sofa in Wood Green. Or at least her skeleton was found. She had been dead for at least 3 years, and no one ever checked on her. Her television was still on. And 4 days after Timothy McVeigh bombed a federal building in Oklahoma City, taking 168 lives, a severed left leg was found in the rubble. No one knew who it belonged to. The legs of all the other victims had been accounted for, and no one else had been reported missing. DNA analysis showed that the leg belonged to Lakeisha Levy, but she had already been buried with both her legs.
What?
So they dug up her corpse. She had been buried with someone else's left leg. The legs were swapped, but because her body had been embalmed, DNA in the unknown leg could not be analyzed. To this
Jesus,
day, no
extra
one knows
leg!
who that leg belongs to. The 169th
Holy
victim
shit.
remains a mystery. Some conspiracy theorists argue that the leg may have belonged to the actual bomber, someone besides Timothy McVeigh who was close enough to the explosion to be obliterated completely except for one leg. Regardless, what it does show is that it is possible for a person to disappear without anyone ever asking where they went. Sometimes people are reported dead or missing even when they aren't. Premature obituaries are common. Many living people already have one on file. If a famous person dies, the media, television, newspapers, magazines, well, they need a full story as soon as possible, so they prepare them ahead of time, locked away, leaving only the dates and circumstances of the death to be filled in.
I mean, that makes sense, but that's scary.
But it's awkward when they leak before the person's dead. In 2003, CNN's website accidentally carried draft obituaries for living people that could be accessed. It's embarrassing, but for the person reading their own obituary, it's a chance to do something that most of us never get a chance to do. See how you will be remembered after you're gone. Alfred Nobel invented dynamite. He made a fortune manufacturing and selling deadly weapons, cannons, and armaments. In 1888, his brother Ludwig died, but many newspapers mistakenly thought that he had died and published obituaries for Alfred Nobel. They weren't very flattering. One French paper declared, "The merchant of death is dead."
Jesus!
Nobel read these obituaries and was so ashamed by what his legacy apparently was going to be. When he did die, he left almost all of his money to the cause of celebrating humanity. He created the Nobel Prize. Marcus Garvey wasn't so lucky. The story goes that after suffering a stroke, newspapers ran premature obituaries that were critical of him, saying he died, quote, alone and unpopular.
What the fuck?
How negatively he was being remembered, Garvey suffered another stroke while reading his own obituary and died. In April
But this is so fucked. What?
of 2000,
No, that makes me so sad.
5 Taylor University students died in a tragic car accident. Another student
Michael, what the fuck?
survived but was in a coma. She was identified as Laura Van Ryn. Her friend, Whitney
Van
Searick,
Ryn.
wasn't as lucky. She was pronounced dead. 1,000 people attended her funeral. But over the next few days, as Laura recovered, she began speaking. And when asked her name, Laura said, "My name is Whitney." The girls looked similar. It turned out Laura was the one they had buried. Later, Whitney was married in the very same church that years before had held her funeral. What if you are already missing and just don't know it?
What the fuck?
It's
What?
not known how often hospitals accidentally switch babies at birth. Modern hospital policies make it unlikely to happen, but because we don't all go out and get maternity and paternity tests for fun, there isn't a lot of data on the phenomenon. But it does happen. It's often discovered because of DNA tests administered to resolve child support disputes. Or, in the case of a 35-year-old woman in the Canary Islands, it's because in 2001, an employee at a store you're shopping at mistakes you for her best friend because you look exactly like her. Because she is your long-lost twin, separated from you since birth. And the sister you grew up with
That's fucking
thinking
insane.
was your twin, turns out to be a biological stranger. What if you are missing, but the authorities don't
Like
know?
the movie.
Such is the life of the unreported missing. People in a country illegally. People estranged from their family and friends with no missing person report ever being filed. Children of homeless mothers. These people aren't just missing, they are what is known as missing. The FBI's National Crime Information Database contains approximately 50,000 reported missing children, but Outpost for Hope reports that there are more than 1 million children in America who are missing without anyone knowing they're missing. It is not against the law to go missing under your own volition. You might have debts to pay or contracts to honor, but if you are an adult, the act of disappearing is not illegal in and of itself. You have the right to go missing.
Hey,
But believing that no one
running
went
away from your
missing,
problems.
that is ridiculous and unscientific. Statistics would suggest otherwise. David Wong wrote one of the most powerful articles I've ever read. There is a lot of information out there. There's even a word for it. Infobesity. It takes a lifetime to even experience some of it. It's easy to think that everyone knows everything that you know. But every year, more than 100 million new people are born, and not a single one of them is born knowing that they are made out of atoms, or that black holes are awesome. Someone needs to be there to tell them, to show them. How many jokes do you hear every day? Every week? How many jokes do you hear every year? Here's a fun thought. By considering average life expectancy and the typical number of jokes a person hears in a year, David Wong posited a thought, rough in its approximation but sharp in its essence. If you are under the age of 38, odds are
that's most
the
of us.
funniest joke you will ever
I'm 26.
hear is a joke you haven't even heard yet. And if you are over the age of 38, odds are you already know a joke that to more people than you could ever possibly meet might be the funniest joke they will ever hear.
Holy shit.
So wherever you are,
Boomer power.
we're glad you're there. And as always, thanks for watching.
I feel like he stuck that at the end because, like, he was like, oh, it's possible for people to go missing and no one cares. And he's like, but don't go missing. You might tell a really funny joke one day. Oh, thanks, Michael, really? Just in case you were thinking about it, don't do that. Because you might make someone laugh really hard someday.